Hey everyone, Austin here with another quick play. Today we are going to be attempting to go through Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon 2, the first episode. There are actually multiple episodes, or I guess I should say multiple types of playthroughs you can do in this game. But we're going to try the first one, which is basically the default. It's the only thing that's unlocked when you first play this game. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and just jump into the game. We are playing the PS4 version, running on a PlayStation 5. I am using a DualShock 4 controller for this, as it is compatible on the PS5 with PS4 games. And yeah, this is a follow-up to Curse of the Moon. Curse of the Moon, for anybody that doesn't know, was a retro-style Castlevania spin-off, or Castlevania-inspired game by some ex-Castlevania developers, actually, that was loosely based on Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. It was sort of like a prequel to Ritual of the Night, I believe. It's been a while now since the first Bloodstained Curse of the Moon came out, but it came out before Ritual of the Night was even finished. It was like a bonus for Kickstarter backers of Ritual of the Night, and I ended up getting my copy pretty early, like right as it released, because I had backed the original Ritual Kickstarter, and I loved Curse of the Moon. It was a ton of fun. I did actually get Curse of the Moon 2 right when it came out. I was really looking forward to it because I loved the first one so much. And I did a live stream of it here on YouTube, and honestly, that was the only time I ever played it. I found the game extremely frustrating and a little tedious, and definitely not as smooth to play as the first game. But I always intended on going back to it, and over this last week, I did. I just happened to fire it up on Twitch after a Mega Man 11 practice session, trying to relearn that game. And you want to talk a grueling learning experience. Mega Man 11's got a lot to take in, so I'm still working on it, guys, for anyone that's been around for a little while and hearing me talk about that game. But yeah, I decided to fire this up, and I ended up doing this 2-hour and 34-minute session up here. I ended up beating the game, and it wasn't actually nearly as difficult as I originally thought when I first played it here on my YouTube stream. And then the day after, I did it again, and I got the time down quite a bit, actually, almost an hour less, and didn't have too much trouble on that playthrough. And then I did it again with an hour 32, and I ended up dying quite a bit on that run, actually. So I feel like I could get it down to, like, maybe an hour 10 or an hour 20 or something like that. So yeah, what we're gonna do is try to do the episode 1 run, which is, it's still a decent length playthrough. I mean, we're talking longer than like any of the NES Castlevanias, well, any of the linear-Vanias on NES, and actually longer than Castlevania 4 for someone like me. So, but yeah, we're gonna try that. And I ended up like really warming up to this game after going through these several runs. It does still have some frustrating aspects to it, but this game really emphasizes, even more so than the first game, it really emphasizes switching up your characters and using particular characters for particular situations. And if you don't do that, you're going to end up, I think, really struggling. There are some parts that are way harder with one character than others, and so if you're not using the right character and using the right special weapon and whatnot for those specific situations, you are going to get wrecked in this game. But yeah, so let's go ahead and start Data 4 here. As you can see, we have a second episode, and I'm assuming we get even more. I actually want to go through all the episodes. I don't know if I'm going to do quick plays of them, because it took a while just to learn episode 1. But this has a lot of replay value, and apparently there are extra characters we get later on. A lot of the characters from the first game also make a reappearance, I think, as playable characters. And yeah, that is something I hope to dive into eventually. Maybe if I learn all of them, maybe I can do another live stream or something like that. So if you want to see something like that, post a comment down below. But yeah, we're going to start off with episode 1. Again, it's how the game normally starts. You do have a variety of difficulty levels. I have not messed around with Legend yet, but I haven't messed around with Casual either. You do have some different options. If you're playing this game for the first time, you might want to do Casual. I do Veteran. It is more classic Castlevania style, where you get knocked back and stuff like that, but it's still pretty fair. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and just stick with veteran. It's got a 2-player mode. I actually haven't messed around with this. I'm guessing that it's 2-player simultaneous, which is kind of interesting. If anybody knows more information about that, let me know. I don't have friends, and so I will probably never experience that mode, but I digress. And there is a good bit of story here, but I'm just gonna kind of like scroll through it because this playthrough is going to be a decent amount of time. And if you want to read that, you can actually put the YouTube player in slow motion, since that is an option in this day and age, which is pretty cool. And, alright, so the Dragon Silhouette. This is our first level. So this is a level where I'm probably not going to focus a whole lot on attacking everything I see. There are quite a few enemies in this that I can just jump over. But yeah, the basics in this game are a lot like the original Castlevania. You walk to the left and right, you jump, you attack, you can attack in the air. You do have these candles, and you attack those, and power-ups drop. I'm gonna go ahead and skip this little demon dog thing here. It will actually jump back at you, and there's actually a few of them over the course of the game. And I took a hit, that's okay. You do have breakable blocks in this as well. These statues will actually shoot fireballs. The fireballs can actually be attacked. So, kind of like this, and there are actually green ones later on in the playthrough that will shoot a lot faster, but we're not there yet. These things as candelabras are checkpoints, which is actually quite nice. So, these levels are actually a lot longer than the Curse of the Moon Part 1 levels, which is why I think they introduced checkpoints like that. And so, you also have these signs, you can press up, these are basically tutorials. And they're actually explaining the fact that we have sub-weapons, and you basically press triangle to utilize those. Now, the candles here will drop these blue potions. Those actually give you magic points, which allow you to use your sub-weapons. And so for our main character here, his name is Zangetsu, he starts off with this 45-degree chain whip. Later on in the game, he'll get this sword upgrade, which actually doubles the length of it. Now we have basically this game's equivalent of holy water. Whereas his chain whip goes up at a 45-degree angle, the holy water goes down at a 45-degree angle. And I took a hit, that's okay, not a big deal. Now, you don't really get points in the traditional sense in this game, but one thing that is kind of cool is that you have this meter in the top right that builds up constantly as you destroy enemies and you pick up money bags. And so what ends up happening is you see that 1-up meter in the top right. As it fills up, you will earn yourself an extra life, which is pretty cool. There's a breakable block right there. And so while I do skip a lot of the enemies in this, just because it just, ends up taking less time to go through the game, it is good to try to kill everything that you can, because you will get yourself extra lives and things like that. You'll be less likely to get a full-on game over. I have never actually gotten a full-on game over in this game. The reason is that this game is pretty generous with lives, because you are constantly working towards extra lives. And as you get extra characters in this game, when they die, you don't lose a full-on life. All of your characters have to die to actually lose a life. And when you beat a level, all of your characters get revived, at least on the veteran difficulty. I'm not sure how it changes on the highest difficulty. But here's our first boss. Bosses in this game generally have a set amount of patterns, and for this first guy, what I want to do is don't bother attacking him right away. I want to get on top of these platforms, because he shoots out this this insta-beam. Just like that. Now he's going to come up here, open his mouth, I'm going to attack him a few times, and then drop down just like that, and then I can use my chain whip. And his third pattern is, he tries to target me. I want to bait the target over to the left so I can come on in and attack him. And we're going to rinse and repeat, just do the same thing again. This is a lot like the first Bloodstained, where the bosses can be really intimidating at first, but once you figure out the patterns, they're actually not too bad, especially the first boss. And same thing again, try to bait the targeted laser, just like that. and just do the same thing again. Now, if I wanted to, I could tank a couple of hits there, try to get a few hits on him, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. It's not really a big deal. Nice, got him. Now, bosses do have desperation attacks. If you're playing episode 1, the first 4 bosses will fail to do their desperation moves. Now, I'm assuming you have to refight the bosses on episodes 2 and on. I have not done that yet. I've only played episode 1 in Curse of the Moon 2. I would assume their desperation attacks come out on episodes 2 and up. So, otherwise I don't think they would really program them in. But there we go. So we're gonna get our next character here. Dominique. And so Dominique is actually really cool because she can attack upwards, she can also downstab, and she's got better reach than Zangetsu does. She's also got this magic here that can give us some health back. So what I can do is actually bring that out, which gives me a heart, and then grab it with another character to refill their health. Or partially refill their health. It only gives you 2 or 3 blocks back, and it uses up 6 magic points. But as long as you've got, you know, more than 6 magic points, you can always be getting your health back, which is nice. So that's actually one really good strategy with Dominique, is constantly just getting your health back. So let's go ahead and drop one. Go ahead and get her health back. You can also pogo off enemies just by bouncing on their heads like that. Now, for the first 4 levels in this game, if you're playing just episode 1 repeatedly, they could get a little repetitious because the first 4 levels are mainly designed around the characters the new characters that you get in your party. So this second level is for Dominique. It's a lot of vertical stabbing. There's a lot of, you know, some pogoing and stuff like that. Yeah, just a lot of things that are built around her. You know, her reach and things like that. Her special attacks. She's got this this white crystal, white or blue, that basically throws out this little mini tornado. There's going to be a section coming up here that's based around that. There's another one that she's got this lightning attack. It goes up to a ceiling and then goes along the ceiling. So she's got sections based around that. She's got this little shortcut. You can actually pogo off these guys with her, which is kind of neat. There are a lot of like sort of shortcuts in this game. If you figure out the shortcuts, you get to bypass a significant chunk of the level, which is cool. And if you're trying to speed through this relatively quickly, and here's her lightning attack. If you're trying to speed through the level pretty quickly, then you want to, you know, figure out those little shortcuts, at least on episode 1. Again, I don't really know how episode 2 progresses, but one day, hopefully I will. But here's her next little attack. It's a down stab, and it propels her up into the air, just like that. And actually, let's get back out over here. Let's switch over to Zangetsu, just get rid of this thing. And then pogo up, and then up stab. Uh-oh, that was actually not smart on my half. Right, just wait for this thing. If I wanted to, I could probably pogo up. No, I can't. Nope, can't even pogo up that way. Now, if I came over here and did that attack, boom. You can actually use this to propel yourself up. It's a lot like Eric Lacard in Castlevania Bloodlines. And we've got the tornado attack now. It goes vertically. As you can see, I mean, this is just like Curse of the Moon Part 1. There's a lot of sections designed with very particular sub-weapons in mind. And, you know, that is one thing I, in a way, don't really like about the Curse of the Moon games that much, is the early levels feel like they're like uber training you. They're really specifically there to train you. Whereas in Castlevania, there were a lot of points in the first Castlevania in particular, or Castlevania 3, where it was like, okay, here's a sub-weapon that'll likely help you a decent bit in this section, but there's so much else going on as well that it's not the only way to get through this section. In Bloodstained, it's like, okay, you really have to use this, otherwise you're not even going to be able to reach the enemies that they want you to kill. And So, I don't know. It's an interesting design choice. It's good for new players, but it's definitely not... the gameplay system overall is not as interesting as classic Castlevania. There's generally not as much going on, especially in these early stages in the Bloodstained games. It's like, do this thing this one specific way, and then that's pretty much it. Alright, so we actually got this, I don't even know what you call this weapon. I think it actually tells us what it is here. Yeah, Resurrection Anthem. So this is a one-time use item. I don't think it actually uses up magic points. What it does is it resurrects dead characters, but it also gives you some of your health back. And so I actually went ahead and just used it. So Dominique doesn't have any special weapons now because I used it. But she got all of her health back, which is actually pretty handy. So let's actually grab this. Go ahead and use that. As you can see, it goes all the way across the screen once it's on the ceiling. And so obviously you're basically meant to use that here. Again, you know, in these first early stages in the game, the levels are designed around these characters, the new characters that you get. And again, this one, it's designed around Dominique. And I don't really need any health here, but let's go ahead and switch off to Dominique again. Go ahead and duck and attack those guys. It's a little bit safer. You can pogo on these if you want. Let's go ahead and grab this. This will max out our magic. But yeah, basically, like what I was saying about the, you know, how the level design works is, you know, it's... These are still phenomenal games, by the way. I highly recommend these, especially if you're classic Castlevania fans. I'm not trying to put these down. I'm just saying they're not quite as interesting in terms of the overall action as Classicvania is. I mean, the first Castlevania, it's like, you know, you get in that first hallway and you've got several enemies coming at you at all times. And it's just very engaging, even, you know, well over 30 years later. Alright, so on this boss, she likes to throw out these little enemies that dive down to the ground. If you can attack them before they hit the ground, they will actually basically just die instantly. And if they hit the ground, they actually form these little huts that form even more enemies. So we have to be a little careful about those. And just walk on over to the right. So as you can see, I mean, this boss is really designed around Dominique as well. If I played as Zangetsu, I would be having a much harder time. But with Dominique, you can just sit right underneath it and just vertical stab. And she's also got the higher jump. You know, the boss was about in the midpoint of the screen, so Zangetsu would have had a hard time hitting that boss without using his chain whip. Unfortunately, the chain whip is a limited use item because it uses up your magic points, so you can't just use the chain whip. Alright, I believe this is Robert. And so what's actually really cool about this guy is he basically uses projectiles. He uses guns. And he's the slowest character in the game in terms of attacking, like how rapidly he attacks. But you can shoot stuff from a distance, and you can also crawl on the ground. He's got the lowest duck in the game. And he defaults to this sort of spread shot, which is pretty cool. And again, this level is going to be based around more of his abilities. And so we're going to basically just focus on just shooting things from a distance. Now, he's got a couple of really decent, you know, sub-weapons. He's got this grenade that rolls all the way across the screen, and it'll bounce off all the walls until it hits something. It also does pretty good damage, which is nice. He's also got kind of like a bazooka. It does tons of damage, and, you know, whereas with some enemies, you know, with every character, those enemies will take multiple hits. But with his bazooka, he'll kill them basically instantly, which is awesome. And because he can duck so low, he can actually go under these projectiles here. And he can also slide down walls and wall jump. So there are going to be some permanent upgrades that we get throughout the course of the game, and some of them can be accessed with his wall jump. I'm gonna go ahead and just duck underneath this. Come on down here. Now, interestingly, with Robert, you actually cannot bust open walls. So if you're trying to find, you know, some hidden health or something like that, you do need to switch over to Monique or Zangetsu, or later Hachi, where you actually get this dog friend who rides this big-ass mech. He's going to be the guy we get after this level. And so you have to switch to either of those three characters to open up walls in this game. Now, I'm not actually trying to attack all the walls I see right now, because I don't really need to. You do get some health in them sometimes. You also get some money bags and things like that, but as you can see, I've already got 5 lives. We're gonna have more by the end of the playthrough, even if I don't find the, you know, the hidden walls or the hidden breakable objects. So I'm not really focusing on it right now. And this is another situation where the game is clearly telling me, hey, you want to use a weapon that goes vertically, or at least at an angle vertically, because we've got these bats. So I can switch over to Dominique here. She's got a much better jump than any other character in the game. Robert probably has the weakest jump, but I found that a lot of the jumps in this game still work with him. And there's the wall jump in action. These sort of doors right here, they can actually be busted down with Hachi. So that's something that's been put in place for subsequent playthroughs. Now, I'm not really sure how those subsequent playthroughs go. So, again, if anybody has played through this game in its entirety, all its episodes, let me know what the differences are, how things are changed, because it's obvious that you still go through some of these same levels again in the later episodes. I know there are alternate pathways and stuff like that you'll be able to traverse with different characters. Alright, so I'm going to actually use Dominique here, go all the way across here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this just in case I need it. That's the resurrection spell. Now, if I really wanted to, I can come down here, jump on there, and then just sort of skip that other staircase. And I'm going to switch over to Zangetsu here, so I can jump over this attack, and then just go ahead and attack this guy head-on, just like that. Let's see what this is. That attack right here actually allows you to do a lot of extra damage with Zangetsu. It uses a chunk of magic energy, but you end up doing, like, double damage or something like that. So, it's actually pretty cool. And let's see what this is for Robert. Okay, there's the bazooka. I actually don't know what the actual weapon is called, but I'm just going to call it the bazooka. Just snipe these guys from a distance. Now, with Robert, you really have to take your time. Because, again, you know, he has to reload his gun. So, it's, you know, there is a significant delay between attacks. You can't just mash the attack button. But we are close to the boss fight now. These guys also take multiple hits with Robert. Actually, I think those guys take multiple hits with everybody now. And I actually don't want to grab this. What I will do is switch over to Dominique, though. The vertical stab actually really comes in handy against these bats. Look at that hitbox. It actually spreads out to the left and right quite well. Very interesting. And I'm going to switch over to Robert because I want to use his bazooka on the first phase of this fight. I'm going to get kind of close, try to use it. I'm going to try to use it twice and then get back. Basically, that flowery looking thing on the bottom is the first weak spot. Alright, jump. Just like that. Alright, now the thing we have to watch out for is that that knight up top. 1 and 2. Ooh, took a hit. Nice, got him. Now, I took 2 hits. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Now, if one character dies, you go back to your checkpoint. And I actually don't think you go back to the candle checkpoint. I think you go back to, like, the previous room or something like that. When all the characters die, you go back to the candle checkpoint. But basically, if one character dies, the fight you're on ends, and you get sent back a little ways. So you've got to watch out for that. So Robert was basically on his last block of health. If I took another hit, the fight would have ended. Then I would have had to go back to the fight without Robert. And so the fight would have been most likely more difficult. That fight was definitely designed around long-distance play. But yeah, this is Hachi. And Hachi rides this mech suit. It's a cute little pup. And Hachi is arguably the most useful character in the game because he can hover in the air. Now you have to be a little careful. When you hover and you attack, it's easy to get kind of stuck in place, have the hover end, and then you just fall straight down into a pit to your death. But by pressing triangle, he goes into invincible mode. You can literally go through anything in the game. Nothing will hurt you except endless pits. So, yeah, and he's got this, like, really heavy punch. It's got a pretty big hitbox, and then he can also press down and attack in the air and do a ground stomp. So what you can do is hover and then ground stomp. Now, the hitbox of the ground stomp is not massive. It goes slightly to the left and right of you, basically where those, like, little explosions are. But that's pretty much it. But you could be invincible, and then get in front of an enemy and then ground stomp. He's pretty flexible. And again, just like with the other characters, this level is going to be designed around Hachi's mechanics. One of the other mechanics for Hachi is that he doesn't get affected by things like ice physics. So notice that he's just walking around this ice like normal. If I switch over to other characters, they start sliding. And so this level would be a lot harder with just those characters. Also, Hachi can bust open spikes. So whereas other characters will take significant damage on spikes, Hachi does not. And I'm going to go ahead and just skip those candles there and just come on over here. Let's go ahead and ground stop. Boom, just like that. One of the other interesting things about Hachi is he doesn't have sub-weapons, and so if you break open a sub-weapon candle, it splits open into 3 magic potions, which is actually nice. So what I use Hachi for is I'll have him grab all the sub-weapon canisters, or the magic canisters, to build my sub-weapon energy a lot faster. So boom, go ahead and grab that. So one thing about Curse of the Moon 2 is I do think there is more strategy involved than the first game. Especially once you unlock all the characters, you have a lot more options for progressing through the levels. And so I think that is one of the things that really stumped me when I first played this game, was that learning curve. There's so much more I can do with all the characters. But again, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, is some sections are way harder with certain characters than others. And so, the game kind of wants you to play as certain characters. And let's go ahead and attack this guy. Trigger him. The game really wants you to play certain sections with certain characters, but, figuring out what characters they really want you to play as might take a little bit of time. You might be going through, like, a certain section with Zangetsu thinking, man, this is really hard, but not really quite figuring out how you should be doing it, because maybe it's not completely straightforward at first. When we have these alligator things, they basically dive at you, and this is where the invincibility ability is actually really, really handy. And he actually can't go across this jump, so as long as you get across that, you're just fine. Now, there are a couple of enemy types in this game that are just super fast, and they're definitely more frequent in the later parts of the game. But I'm going to go ahead and just use Robert for this part. As long as they fire their attacks, I can just wait and then shoot them from a distance. It takes 2 hits, not really a big deal. So I think the intended strategy is to basically just to use Hachi there, use the invincibility, and then just get right in their face and punch them. But again, you've got different ways of tackling these various situations. And one of them is just to use Robert. Snipe the guys from a distance. And right here, I can wall jump with Robert. Go ahead and switch back over to Hachi. Let's actually try to hover over there. The hover actually lasts quite a long time, actually. It's pretty nice. And this part down here, they want you to use Hachi. You actually can't do this without Hachi. So you go invincible, just like this, and then just ground stomp this guy. You want to switch off your invincibility as quickly as possible, though, because it constantly ticks down your weapon energy. This part as well, they really want you to use the invincibility. As you can see, they're giving me big potions. Go ahead and switch off. It's ground stomp. That ground stomp can be really nice. So you actually have two ways of doing this. This is kind of interesting. The intended strategy is to use Hachi here, because it's basically his level. But you can switch over to Dominique. She can jump straight up. I kind of wish that they made it just a little bit higher, so they kind of forced you to use Hachi, but maybe there's something there on the later episodes that is important. But I don't know, because I haven't played those episodes yet. Now that I'm decent at episode 1, or at least comfortable with it, I should say, I'll probably try to tackle those. But yeah, best course of action for this part is to use Hachi, because if you fall on the spikes, you won't take any damage. You just get rid of the spikes. Alright, we're basically at the boss fight. And I'm going to use Robert to start, because he's got his bazooka. The bazooka does a lot of damage. So let's go ahead and switch over to him. But the thing about Robert, he's got the smallest health bar out of all the characters. And with these ice physics, it can be a little bit difficult to control him. This is actually what I'd say is probably one of the more complex boss fights in the game. She's got a lot of attacks. Alright, she's gonna do a wave attack. Alright, gotta switch over. Taking a lot of hits here. But I can go invincible. For the duration of that attack, at least. Boom, got it. Alright, so that's phase 1. This boss actually has 2 phases. And ideally what you want to do is use Hachi, because spikes are going to form on the bottom. Go ahead and dodge that water. I like to get rid of the spikes in case I have to switch over to another character. Use the platforms as a shield. Oops. Now, if I had some invincibility, I could have used that right there, but I was too focused on just tanking hits. And you know what's actually kind of interesting is, I always thought that the water in the background would hurt me when she's just like bobbing back and forth. But it turns out the second phase, where you have to hit the mouth, actually isn't really that hard. It's not really that dangerous. And then you'll notice that a sword popped out of there. That's actually apparently like a special item. We get it after this, oh no, we get it right now. For some reason I thought we got it on one of the next levels. But this is the Soul Eraser. It basically upgrades Zangetsu's sword, so he can now do a combo. And the attacks that you have will actually vary depending on like what special you have. So I think if I use this one, his main sword attack is, yeah, he does this spin attack when it's activated. It's like a spin slash from Ninja Gaiden, which is pretty interesting. Unfortunately, no running ability like in the first Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. But, yeah. Still pretty cool, though. I like that he gets this nice combo. It makes Zangetsu a lot more useful, because his basic sword swipe in the beginning of the game is it's fine, it's serviceable, but ultimately it's not that great. But yeah, this is where I'd say our first difficulty spike really happens. So this fire here, as it spreads apart, that can actually hurt you, so you have to be a little careful. There are a couple of platforming sections later on that revolve around that, and it can be a little frustrating to deal with. But you'll notice that Zangetsu now also has this nice, like, overhead swipe. So his attack does go more vertically now. These are the green fire statues I was talking about earlier. Now, if I wanted to play it really safe, I could actually switch over to Robert and snipe them from a distance. If you're playing this game for the first time, I'd probably recommend doing that. But for me right now, it's not really necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to Zangetsu. And switch over to Hachi, because I'd like to try to maximize my magic points. And Hachi is actually probably the best character to play as here on this section, because if I decide to accidentally fall into the lava, I can switch over to invincibility mode and not take damage. Otherwise, I do actually take significant damage. You don't die instantly, but you do still take a lot of damage, so you have to be really careful. The other thing about Hachi is that he's got just so much flexibility with his hover and things like that. And so getting through those platforms can be a lot easier. Now that said, this part can be a little tricky. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. I think I'm just going to go invincible for this part. Kind of like this. Ground stomp, and then attack, and then we're just going to go ahead and sit here. And we've got these classic streams of fire, much like the Gradius games. Let's go ahead. Can we hit that door? Oh, nice. So we got the door before we actually took a hit. It's one of those checkpoint systems where... oh, I can't actually... Okay, I'll just play as Dominique here. Let's see what this is with Zangetsu. Okay, cool. Got my whip. So I am gonna be questioning myself a little more often on this part, because this is where, again, the difficulty rises quite a bit. Now, in an earlier part, you can actually get the sort of holy water equivalent, and you can actually use that to attack these guys on the bottom, but I did not grab that. Alright, there we go. Alright, so this fire you can actually attack. So I'm going to try to attack it and then get in the middle. Try to get rid of these bouncy things first. Turn around, attack it. Wait for the bouncy fish. Let's see, just go ahead and use Hachi here. Now the strategy is to hover over the fire, kind of like that. Go invincible, maybe? Switch back over to Zangetsu. I find that positioning with Zangetsu here is a lot easier. Taking a bunch of hits. But one of the great things about this game is you can switch characters. So you're like, oh man, this character's health bar is getting low. Let me switch over. And so Hachi has a little bit... Hachi has a big health bar, but he actually takes a lot of damage. So his health bar is not as big as it seems. Zangetsu is definitely the most balanced of the bunch. Let's go ahead and use Zangetsu here, because this guy's projectile will go behind me, and then I can just jump over it as it gets close to me. Switch back over to Hachi. We definitely need some of those sweet magic points. Let's do Dominique. Back to Hachi. Alright, so for this part right here, I'm going to actually snipe this guy from a distance. They only take 2 hits with Robert. And I'm going to not use that. I'm going to go ahead and use his... Well, I was going to say use his bazooka, but that guy landed straight on top of me. I was expecting him to do the Castlevania thing, where he just jumps over you at first. But again, with Robert, you can snipe guys from a distance, and a lot of times you can actually, yeah, like, you could attack them from just slightly off screen. And I'll do the same thing here, just try to snipe these guys from a distance. Go ahead and attack that guy, that candle. Go ahead and use Zangetsu. And I did not get close enough. These tiny hearts, they only give you a couple of blocks of health back, but you do get bigger hearts that give you most of your health back. I will say the game is not too particularly generous with health drops. So one strategy, especially that's really good on a first playthrough, is switching over to Monique, Dominique. I keep calling her Monique for some reason when I've been playing this. I don't know why, but it's Dominique. So what I'm going to do is actually use her resurrection spell, because you'll notice that a lot of my HP is down. By using the resurrection spell, it gives everybody a little bit of health back. But one of the very good strategies is to get this red crystal. It's the one where you can drop health. And it looks like everybody's got their health back, but you can just have her hold on to this special ability for the whole game. I mean, I even used it on the final boss when I was first learning this game. So, something to keep in mind when you're trying to learn this for the first time. Alright, permanent life extend for everybody. I want to say in the first Bloodstained, those permanent upgrades were actually only good for the character that grabbed them. But in this, it actually applies to everybody, which is actually quite nice. I'm gonna go ahead and go invincible here. Just makes that part a lot easier. And for this part, I'm going to switch over to, I want to say Zangetsu, but yeah, we're gonna do Zangetsu. And the reason for that is the first pattern here actually has this guy diving from one side of the screen to the other. And I want to go ahead and use my whip as he goes to the other side. He's going to do that a couple times. Boom, just like that. Now he should come up and open up. Oh, no, he's going to be on this side. I was not expecting that. Alright, switch over, because I am taking too much damage. Now, some of these patterns, they're not in the same order every time you play. And so that actually completely caught me off guard. But here's exactly what I was talking about earlier, is you can just drop health over and over. Yeah, as you can see, I'm still not all that great against these bosses. Also, you know, as this game progresses, the bosses get harder and harder and harder. More and more complex. Switching over to Dominique here. This guy's panic attack is he kind of comes in from the middle. Oop, and I mistimed that. You wanna jump over right as like the tails are off those platforms, so you can land without taking a hit. The desperation move thing is something that was introduced in Dracula X Rondo of Blood, the Castlevania game for the PC Engine Duo. And in that game, if you would successfully avoid the desperation move, I think you would get an extra life. And that was brought back, actually, in Curse of the Moon Part 1. And I don't know if you actually get a 1-up for it now, but the desperation moves are still there. And it's, regardless of whether you, like, earn anything for it, it's a fun mechanic. Because usually the timing is a little bit tighter on that, and so it requires a little bit of practice. But yeah, the difficulty spike just continues. These last couple levels can be pretty challenging. Alright, so what I want to do is actually get rid of these guys. I'm going to go ahead and shoot this guy from a distance. Let it just walk off the ledge there. Go ahead and switch over to Hachi. Go into invincibility mode. Switch back to Dominique. Now I could probably hover over there, but I don't trust that wall that's on the top. These swords are gonna bounce down to the ground. Not really bounce, they're gonna plant into the ground. I'm gonna go ahead and attack them right away if you can, because... Oh no, you gotta be kidding me. The knockback is pretty crazy here. I was getting a little too comfortable with this section. Really what I should do is use Hachi, because he doesn't have much knockback. Go ahead and switch over to Hachi. Now unfortunately, Dominique is gone for now, which means I won't be able to use her to get health back. Another thing I should have done is just use my invincibility here. But that's okay. Gonna go ahead and use Robert here. Shoot these things from a distance. Now, as you land on these platforms, they go upwards. So one strategy is just to constantly jump to let them go down. And then you can get lined up with Robert to do a single hit against these guys. Go ahead and grab this health with Hachi. Switch over to Hachi again. So just jump, jump, jump. Get over to the left-hand side. I don't want that guy to hit me by accident. And there we go. I don't really have... I don't know. I might actually be able to hit this guy with Hachi. Let's see. Yep. Awesome. Alright, let's come on down here. Ooh, that was scary. Alright, so this is a attack upgrade. Now, I can actually use Hachi to grab this, but I think I can also use Robert. Robert is a little bit safer. Hachi, you can end up falling to your death by accident if you're not careful. So just jump straight up. All attack up. Very nice. Good upgrade. Alright, let's use Robert here, get his health back, because he's the weakest of the bunch. Now, when these guys land on the ground, you'll notice that there's a little sort of shockwave effect. That won't actually hurt you with the other characters, so you really want to use Hachi for this part. This is one of those parts that is a lot more difficult with every other character versus Hachi. Now, unfortunately, I don't have Dominique. Dominique is really good for this section because she's got the high jump. But Hachi at least has the hover, which helps quite a bit as well. Right, same concept as the red sword from earlier. Looks like it actually hit me. So for these rats with Hachi, you really have to do your ground stomp. His regular attack actually will not connect with them. They just go right underneath his attack, so you basically just need to ground stomp. And more really fast enemies here, so we'll just go invincible. Now, there's going to be a different variation on them later where they actually jump at you. Invincibility again, just like that. Just bypass them. Now, for this part, I'm going to actually take it relatively slow. I just want to show you how to do this. If you're playing for your first time, you might want to just kind of use Robert from a distance. Just like that. They don't have a lot of hit points. But jump on the stairs. If you hold up when you land on a staircase, Just like Castlevania Bloodlines or Dracula X or Super Castlevania 4, you can actually latch on the staircases. Now, you cannot jump off of them or drop down, unfortunately, but you can at least land on them. So you basically just come up, attack once, go down. It's a little time-consuming, but it's safe. And it allows you to bypass these guys with relative ease. There are a lot of enemies in this game that you could just attack from a distance or just play like really safe against. So what I'm going to do is actually switch over to Robert here and use my bazooka. Look at that, 2 hits. If I was using my regular gun, it would have taken a lot of hits. Or if I was using, say, Dominique's wind ability, it would have taken like 10 hits. It would have taken a lot of hits. I'm going to go ahead and just skip this part with Robert. And actually, you know, I'm going to skip that health. It's probably not a big deal. Alright, so for this part right here, I'm going to actually use Robert from a distance. 100% safety. Switch over to Hachi. Go ahead and grab that magic upgrade. Back over to Robert. There's probably going to be some more big enemies up here. Let's see. Nope. More platforming. Now, unfortunately, I don't have Dominique. I'm just going to make this a little more difficult than it needs to be. Also, since I don't have Dominique, I can't use the shortcut, which is to pogo off of those candles. So now we have to take the scenic route, which is admittedly a little more difficult. Some of these alternate routes are more challenging. But do the same thing as before. Ooh, I have to be really careful though. There we go. Another strategy is to use Hachi and just use the invincibility through this part. Which is a perfectly valid strategy. If it wasn't a valid strategy, then they wouldn't allow you to do that. So this is absolutely one of those kinds of games where it's like, you need to use your character's abilities accordingly. Otherwise, you are making the game a lot more difficult on yourself than necessary. So these spikes up here can actually be destroyed, and if you want to take your sweet time, you can actually use Robert to destroy them from a distance. We're going to go ahead and switch over to Hachi, though. We're going to actually be switching back and forth constantly here, just because it's so useful. So Robert, hit these spikes from a distance, switch back over to Hachi. Now Hachi can actually go through these spikes. Or not. I thought Hachi could go through the spikes. You know what? Hachi can go through the spikes if he's invincible. I didn't activate my invincibility, so that was kind of dumb on my part. No invincibility. Ooh, that was close. I actually ended up hovering. I didn't want to hover. But there we go. Just get rid of the spikes. Now, if you've got invincibility mode activated, if you switch to another character, it actually deactivates the invincibility. So you don't have to worry about... you know, switching back to Hachi and turning it off manually. Alright, go ahead and grab that with Robert. Switch back to Hachi. We definitely want Hachi here because, again, when these guys drop down, they will actually hurt you from the sides. Pretty busy section if you're just kind of running past all the enemies. Alright, so now, unfortunately, I don't have Dominique, and I really want Dominique for this boss fight. One strategy is to actually just kill all your characters. Just get rid of them. And by doing so, you'll go back to your checkpoint, and everybody will be revived. But the plan here is to try to stand on these columns. But one thing I'm trying to do is actually get rid of the guys on the walls. This is a very busy boss fight. It can be quite challenging. Now, if you're trying to get magic back, the enemies on the walls that shoot arrows, they'll actually drop magic, pretty much guaranteed. And this is a extremely poor showing, unfortunately. Extremely busy fight. It's so much to take in when you first play it. When I first got here, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But it's actually a pretty cool fight. When you get the hang of it, there is a lot going on, but it's also pretty controllable at the same time. Now, having Dominique makes this so much easier because she can attack vertically. Okay, I don't know why I'm getting caught on that. And I'm probably going to end up dying here. Yep, I took an arrow to the butt. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is, my life is going to be utter hell right now, trying to get through all these sections with just these little characters. So let's go ahead and just get rid of our characters. What ends up happening is we go back to the candle checkpoint, and we have to go through that whole last long section again. But at least I have all my characters now. So, anyway, let's see what happens here. Go ahead and switch over to Robert. I don't trust this part. Oh, and that's right, I can actually pogo across. We should actually probably try to do that. That'll save us a little bit of time. So this is also, in all the playthroughs I've done so far, this is kind of where like my runs start going downhill. Because this is where memorization starts to kick in a lot more than in earlier parts of the game. Like I said, the earlier parts of the game, it's like, it's obvious the levels were designed around specific characters. But from here on out, it's like you have to get a little more creative, and it takes a lot more practice to get through these sections more consistently. Also, this is the point in the playthrough where I kind of start getting worn out. I don't have the same levels of stamina as I used to playing these difficult games that require like 100% focus. Especially at like, you know, 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning when I'm recording this. Okay, so I actually don't really want to be invincible anymore. I just ran out, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. Alright, try to attack those guys from a distance. Alright, we're in much better shape now. I love that with Hachi you can kill these guys in one hit. It's so nice. Makes this part a lot easier. Alright, and I'm going to switch over to Dominique, because she's got her vertical attack. So even if these pillars don't go all the way up to the boss's weak spot, with her vertical swipe, she can still attack them without really any issue. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. The knockback with her is pretty crazy, though. This is not good. Unfortunately, Robert is extremely weak against this boss. And it's actually kind of interesting because he's generally pretty powerful against these bosses, but not this one. Maybe it's because he's got so much range. Yeah, I mean, with Robert, you can just snipe these guys from across the screen. Very handy, actually. See, I'm still learning some strategies here. But ideally, I switch over to another character, do more damage. Zangetsu's vertical swipe is really good. It's really powerful. It's got that great hitbox. And I'm going to take a hit here. Oof. So that's the desperation move. I don't think desperation moves can kill you in this game. I think if you're at the lowest amount of health, it won't actually kill you. But if you've got a high amount of health, it will take several blocks away. I think. Don't quote me on that. But I've never actually died from a desperation move in this game. So, take that as what you will. Alright, so this level, it's definitely got some tricky sections. But it's also probably one of the slowest levels in the game. Switch over to Hachi. I definitely need some magic here. Magic energy. I really like that when you get your sword upgrade with Zangetsu, it really enhances your sub-weapons. So, like, your chain whip does double the or not double the damage, but it does double the length now, which is actually very handy. I see that candle there? I've died multiple times trying to get it. It's just money. It's not a big deal. Alright, so for this part, I'm going to actually switch over to Zangetsu. You can actually destroy these fireballs with him. So I just kind of wait and then attack one of them. And with Hachi, you've got just enough hover to grab that. So that actually raised every character's defense. Also, this is our second to last level. We're actually really close to the end of the game. Well, I wouldn't say really close, because these last couple levels are pretty long. And I like to just use my invincibility here. It's mech on mech. Now, what I want to know is, are they also dogs inside of those mechs? And on this part, I can actually use Dominique. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Well, I messed that up. I don't think I can actually reach that. Nope. Alright, well, I guess we're taking the scenic route. This is all just money, by the way. It's nothing special. Yeah, and unfortunately, the candles do not reappear. Using my invincibility here is probably not the best idea. Let's actually see what's in here. I'm gonna switch over to Robert. First, get rid of that one. 1 and 2. Sweet. Just fall straight down. Classic Castlevania. Ooh. That was scary. I thought I could drop down and then simply hover, but that did not work as planned. Now, you have to be really careful with your hovering here, because if you accidentally touch one of these platforms, what can end up happening is the game will think you've landed on a platform and your hover will stop, even though you're still intending to hover. So it could be, yeah, it can catch you off guard pretty easily. Invincibility? Yeah, just to get through that fireball. I didn't want to have to time that you know, attacking that fireball. Risking some knockback. Alright, so for this right here, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I didn't even realize it. You can actually pogo up there with Dominique. I don't know if you can actually destroy that thing right now, though. You might be able to. I haven't tried it. Alright, so for these green mechs, you can actually just get up close to them, just like that. I actually don't really need to go invincible against them. Now, I completely messed that up, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Timing your attacks with Hachi could be a little difficult. There we go. Yeah, if you do it just right, you can actually kill them without using invincibility and before they throw their fireballs out. I'm going to switch back over to Zangetsu, do the same thing as before, attack the fireball. Now, I know I'm safe from behind because those fireball spreads actually won't go off a ledge. So the farthest it'll go is where Zangetsu is standing. So I can just stand in front of it and then attack the second one that comes out. Now, when you're pogoing with Dominique, what ends up happening is you have to hold in the direction you want to go, otherwise you're going to pogo just straight up. So you'll miss your opportunity to take a shortcut. Now, I've got the resurrection spell down there, but I actually don't need it because everybody's alive, and she's already got her health refill special ability, so... Actually, I'm going to drop down here, though, with Hachi, just get rid of these spikes. And the reason for that is I can now use Robert to snipe those things from a distance. Now, there's a lot of thought that can go into these various sections. I'm going to duck here, because sometimes you can't actually fit under that completely. You, like, bump your head against it, then I think he might duck automatically. It's a little weird, so I just try to play it safe. Gonna go ahead and just kind of skip through that. Sometimes what I do is I intentionally land down below with Hachi just to get rid of the spikes. And that makes it a little bit safer in case I take a hit and get knocked into the spikes. Now, I actually can't get up there. I'd have to use Dominique. I don't even think she can reach that when she pogos off that candle. But then she'd still take a hit there anyway. And Hachi actually can't go high enough to get through that with invincibility, so... That's something that you'd have to tackle with another set of characters. But we're going to use our invincibility here, though. Much like earlier in the game. Now, there are sections just like this in the first Curse of the Moon, but you have to actually go through them normally. So they are a lot more difficult than they are here. At least right now. I assume there are, you know, on subsequent playthroughs, you might not have Hachi here. So you might have to go through these levels without the invincibility luxury. Let's go ahead and use our special there. Fortunately, it's really weak. Alright, so for this part right here, I can actually wall jump with Robert. Attack this guy from behind. Switch back to Zangetsu. Don't think I really need any health. And I'm not going to worry too much about, you know, potions and stuff like that. Alright, we should be close to our boss fight, too. I will use my invincibility right here. Alright, boss time. Now this is a really tricky boss. This character basically, like, you know, has these orbs that glow, and depending on the color, it determines the pattern of this seemingly unavoidable object or attack. I'm gonna switch over to Zangetsu here. I'm gonna try to come over here and hope it doesn't kill me. Okay. But yeah, this is basically the final boss from the first game, which is kind of interesting. They brought it back. If anybody out there watching this knows exactly how these patterns work, do let me know. I'm gonna try to come down here. I don't think this is gonna work. I'm gonna try it anyway. I have yet to avoid this panic attack. Nope, doesn't work. I was hoping maybe it would land on the upper platform, and like with Robert you can just duck under it, but no. I know it just targets wherever you are in the screen, but no matter how fast I move, it still hits me. So, but alrighty guys, this is our final stage. This is a very tricky one for new players. A lot of people don't like this level because it is kind of intense, but it's actually not that bad when you take your time and you don't rush it. Now you do have like wind physics here, it's pushing you to the right, so you can just rush through that first section. But you've got this big ass thing chasing you for the whole level. But you can attack it. You can actually push it in the other direction. And since you don't have a time limit here, you can actually take your time. So don't stress over it too much. And for this part, I'm going to actually take my time with Robert. Just like this. This is how I recommend new players tackle these sections. But again, I can actually just get up in that guy's face with Zangetsu. And then not have any issues. As long as I time my attacks and, you know, yada yada yada, all that good stuff. And here we go. You just attack it, just like that. Just take your time. Now, don't get me wrong, some of this stuff gets pretty tricky, especially right here. But one strategy for me is to go invincible. Just like that. And again, Hachi can just land on these spikes. I can switch over to Robert too and snipe it from a distance. Push it way far back. Alright, let's hope that we can get this. I've actually messed this up. Okay, good, got it. If you pogo too early, you'll actually miss the higher one. And then you miss the shortcut. Taking hits, not really a big deal. And with Robert, I'm going to snipe this guy from a distance. Looks like Hachi kills these guys in one hit, which is pretty nice. Ooh, that was close. Now, if I want to get real fancy, I can do this. Drop some health. Grab it with Hachi while I'm smacking this guy backwards. Ooh, that was close. That was really risky. Alright, back to Robert. Ooh, I messed that up. Alright, good deal. I'm going to switch back over to Hachi in case there's a magic candle. And we've got some health. Hachi is probably my most important character right now, because the invincibility helps out so much. Alright, this part is actually quite tricky. I'm going to actually switch over to Dominique, because it just feels the most natural. Completely messing this up, but that's okay. Switch over to Zangetsu, because he's got health. I can use Robert here. That actually helps out quite a bit. Alright, let's just wait for this. Alright, switch back to Robert. Now, when that fireball lands on the ground, you notice that it actually spreads through the floor just a little bit. That will actually hurt you. That's why I'm actually moving down these stairs a little bit farther. Otherwise, if this was like classic Castlevania, you can literally just, you know, line his head up, the pixel up with the top of the floor, and you won't take a hit. But the hitbox for the actual fireball itself does extend below the floor. There's another one of these guys right here. And you can actually just sit over here in safety. See? Look at that. Just do it again. So, just snipe the guy from a distance. Really good to try to take advantage of little tricks like that in this game. Because a lot of times the game doesn't otherwise play fair. We're going to use some invincibility here. Yeah, that section could actually be really hard, but if you use Hachi's invincibility, if you've got enough magic energy, it's really not too bad, actually. Use the invincibility again right here, just get rid of this guy real quick. Makes this part a lot easier. And I can use Robert to snipe that guy. Now, these guys throw their hammers high or low. You need to watch out for that. And I tried, you know, timing my attack correctly there to where I canceled out the hammer, but it did not work. It's kind of like a hammer blade. It's not really just a hammer. Alright, so it looks like Dominique doesn't have a whole lot of health, but we are actually fairly close to the end here. I think we have ourselves at least one more vertical section. Use my invincibility on this guy. Those demons actually have a lot of HP. Yeah, skip that little bit of magic. It's not a big deal. Let's switch over to Dominique here. And the main reason for that is she can pogo. Uh-oh. That was actually kind of scary. Now, you can actually downstab through the floor with her. Partially. Which is quite handy. Alright, man. That was still a little intense, mainly because like we've been playing for an hour and 20 minutes now. Just about. Little trick here. You'll notice that there's a little staircase there on the bottom. We can actually just drop straight down. Just like that. Get ourselves some HP. I'm gonna actually switch over to Dominique here. Go ahead and use the resurrection spell. Just get everybody's health back. Now, one of the nice things about this part is that once all your characters die, you are guaranteed an extra life. Looks like everybody has full health. So we're just going to do this. And what I'm going to do is actually switch over to Robert because I want his bazooka for the first phase of this fight. This is actually a 2-phase boss fight, or 2-form boss fight. Extra life right there, pretty much guaranteed, but there's my bazooka. And I don't need anything else. I mean, I could try to get a different weapon with Zangetsu, but it's not really a big deal. I'm not going to use sub-weapons past this first phase. Alright, so the big thing with this guy is it basically has a glowing orb, or a glowing fist, I should say. The green one means that these projectiles are going low. The purplish one means that they are going high. Now, when this guy goes all the way to the back like that, it does this circular pattern. You need to watch that. And then it tries to reform, and then it's rinse and repeat. So green's going low, purple's going high, green's going low, it's going high, or mid, I should say. There is actually a pink one, and it's going to do the circular pattern again. Now, there is one where it'll actually try to track you and then dive across the screen. How high it goes across the screen, it's dependent on how high you are in the screen. So green is low, purple is mid, pink is high. Purple is mid, pink is high, mid. I'm just going to duck with Robert. There we go. So now it's trying to track me. So you actually just jump straight up and try to position it upwards. Let's just switch back to Robert. I'm going to use my bazooka one more time. Bazooka, I think, uses 6 magic points. Nice. Alright, so first form is done. Now, every time you die at the boss, you have to do the first form over again. Now, interestingly, in Curse of the Moon 2, when you go back to the boss fight, if you've died, their health bar will actually not be full when you get back to the boss fight again. So, you know, it is actually pretty fair compared to even the first game when it comes to boss fights. Or did the first game do that too? I don't remember. Alright, this is going to go all the way across the screen. I'm going to switch over to Robert. I'm going to jump over. It's going to do it again. Alright, switch back over to Dominique. Ooh, it did that attack first. Sometimes it does this laser on the bottom, and you have to use Hachi and hover. If you don't do it, then you will definitely take some hits. Rocks from the side. Right, this thing again. Alright, this sword's gonna actually drop through one of these blocks. Now you can actually... Oh! I messed that up! I was gonna say, you can land on the sword and actually use it as a platform. And I'm just gonna have to tank here. Don't have a choice. Now, this is gonna be tricky, because I'm not used to having that center platform disappear. That's fine. Alright, so we have to switch over to Hachi here. Stay on the highest platforms, and then jump and hover. Jump and hover. Boom. It's the only way to avoid that. Or maybe using invincibility, that might work too. Of course it'll work, you're invincible. It's not invincibility if you're not invincible. Alright, back over here. Alright, we want to hover, and I messed that up big time. That's okay. Definitely want to stay as Dominique now, because she's got a full health bar. Boom. And we just beat Curse of the Moon 2's Episode 1. That final boss took me quite a lot of tries to learn, but the last couple playthroughs I've done, I've been well, the last 2 playthroughs I've done, I should say, I've gotten it down on my first try. And this game actually does save your progress. And so what you can do is actually replay that final level again. And I did that after my last playthrough as well, and I got the final boss on my first try again. So there's a lot of pattern recognition and memorization that's required in this game, and that's going to be the hardest part, at least on episode 1. I mean, as you guys saw, a lot of the boss patterns actually weren't, they weren't actually all that, you know, aggressive. It was just about knowing, like, where to stand and what to do. And I'm gonna kind of skip through this a little bit. Basically, Dominique sacrifices herself there, and then your whole team basically says, wow, she was actually a good person after all, after we doubted her this whole time. Let's go save her! And I think that's gonna be episode 2. So, maybe we'll do a playthrough of that some other time. But not right now. So, but that was Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon 2, episode 1. Still close to an hour-and-a-half long gameplay session, which is pretty crazy. I actually was not planning on doing a quick play of this game, but because I fired it up and, you know, I decided to go back to it and just kind of get better at it, it started to become like second nature, and I thought, you know what? Let's try to knock out a quick play, and here we are now. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this playthrough. This is a tough game. It's much tougher than the first game, for a variety of different reasons, but if for some reason you were like me and you decided to just never play the game again after you tried it for the first time, I recommend going back to it, giving it a second chance, and seeing what you can do with it. There's definitely a little more memorization heavy than the first game. It's not as user-friendly on the first playthrough, but you get the hang of it. You get used to the different character abilities and stuff like that. Realize that a lot of sections are designed around those abilities, and so it kind of forces you to get used to the abilities and well, just get used to the game. So you can actually skip through the credits here, but just by holding down X. It is a long credits roll actually, but it is a cool credits roll because it's got some great back-end music. Music that probably should have included in at least one of the stages in the game, because it is so good, but I digress. Anyway, guys, that's it. That's Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. I really appreciate you guys watching and hanging out with me on this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you want to hopefully see me do the other episodes down the road, let me know down below in the comments section. And yeah, that's gonna do it for me. If you're new to my channel and for some reason made it to the end of this video, feel free to subscribe. I've got a lot of videos like this and many more to come. For everybody already subbed, thanks as always for your continued support. And until the next one, take it easy.